and welcome back to Browsing the Bestiary, a podcast that takes an in depth look at all those creatures that put the monster in Monster Manual, the beast in Bestiary, and of course, the dragons in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
I'm Dungeon Mrs. Jade.
And this is Lore Master Andy coming back to you for a third episode of this
Woo!
podcast. Yes, woohoo! Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you. If you're new here, we're happy to have you. And if you are back, then we are even happier to have you because hopefully that means you liked what you've been hearing and you want to hear more of it. So today, we are looking at a creature that is commonly used as a low-level encounter, but as we will discuss, can actually be pretty flexible. Jade, can I get a dice roll, please?
Yes, you can. Today's dice is a pretty jade green set just
Ah,
for our special creature.
uh-huh.
Woo! Looks like a
A
9.
9. If only we had some modifiers. Well, with a 9, that gives us bullywugs.
Bullywugs!
Bullywugs. Yes, Jade, what do you know about bullywugs? Just kind of off the top of your head.
So, my first experience with bullywugs actually was when I listened to NADPOD for the
Ah,
first time. And one of their quests was early quests actually started in a swampland with bullywugs.
okay.
And they were pretty fun creatures.
Nice. Yeah, and obviously, funnily enough, in all of the D&D that I have played through the years, I have never once, as a player, actually faced against bullywugs.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, yeah. I've had characters fight grung, which are a different type of frog humanoid, but never against bullywugs, actually. So it's kind of fun to dive in with something that I hadn't directly fought and killed before. Um, so speaking of bullywugs, the beginning of their entry in the 5th edition Monster Manual says, "Life as a bullywug is nasty, brutish, and wet. These frog-headed amphibious humanoids must stay constantly moist, dwelling in rainy forests, marshes, and damp caves. Always hungry and thoroughly evil. Bullywugs overwhelm opponents with superior numbers when they can, but flee from serious threats to search for easier prey." They really put the bully into the name bullywugs, right? If they can't pick,
Yeah.
if they can't pick on you and push you around, if your party or anything else they come across puts up too much of a fight, they're gonna kind of get out of there. They're not in it for the love of the game. Is all I'm
Mm.
saying.
And we'll definitely get more into that later on, but of course, I want to talk to you all about the real world origins of these creatures.
Yes.
Frogs have been featured in a number of mythology and folklore across the world. Like I said, last time we talked about monster frogs in folklore, but some folklore feature frogs as a prominent symbol for good.
I love that.
This
Yeah.
symbology of frogs is usually rooted in the unique life cycle of frogs, in which they often represent fertility and rebirth.
Ah. Okay.
Yep, and these frogs are less monstrous in appearance and more humanoid. The most notable depiction of anthropomorphized frogs, say that 10 times fast, comes from ancient Egypt mythology with the goddess Heket. Heket was the goddess of regeneration, rebirth, and fertility, and she was often depicted with the body of a woman and the head of a frog.
I'm weirdly into it. Okay.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. And the cult of Heket actually is one of the oldest Egyptian cults, dating back all the way to the early dynastic period, or 31,050 BC.
Okay. I feel
So
like
very, very old.
Yeah, I feel like Anubis gets all the love, right? Where's our Hecate love, at least in like
I
Western
know.
media?
Hecate's our girl, you know?
Yeah.
And she's especially a girl because she protects pregnant women who would often wear frog amulets during pregnancy, during birth to promote an easy delivery.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. Um, we're going to move on from Egyptian mythology and some other cultures that featured the frog, often featured it in their creationist stories. One such story is from the Gunai Kurnai people, an Aboriginal tribe from Australia. In their creationist story, a greedy frog named Tiddalik drinks all of the water in the world and leaves nothing for the other creatures to drink.
Dick move, Tiddalik.
This forces the other creatures to work together to get the frog to return the water. They do a couple things to try and get him to return the water, but finally they settle on getting him to laugh. The moral of the story is that one should only take what they need when they need it.
See, now that's a great lesson. But and I might be off base here, but could this also maybe be a lesson in the importance of laughter, or how you can use humor instead of your fists to diffuse a situation? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just really trying to stick up for the face of the party players out there. High charisma, low strength. Like we see you guys. We hear you.
You mean all the characters that you play?
That's right. That's right. All the bards, mostly bards.
We love our bards.
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, so in addition to mythology, frogs are also prominently appear as characters in fairy tales. The most famous fairy tale is a Western story that is a German fairy tale, which was collected by the Brothers Grimm,
Mm.
Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. I know how much you love the Brothers Grimm, Andy.
I do. I mean, for anybody that is listening that doesn't know the Brothers Grimm, you do actually know the Brothers Grimm.
Hmm.
Lots of big name fairy tales, whether it's like things like Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella, or the Princess and the Frog, foreshadowing, are kind of offshoots of these German fairy tales. But it's funny because the German versions of the beloved Disney adaptations are way more brutal and way bloodier than you would
Way more bloody.
you would
Yeah.
ever imagine, and so much child death.
Oh, child death, kidnapping,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, just horrifying stuff. But maybe their version of the Princess and the Frog. Maybe that one's nice. I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, but it was really nice. The Brothers Grimm did a really cool thing in that they collected a lot of these German fairy tales that were mostly oral stories, because they wanted to preserve all of them for future generations.
Mm.
And a lot of the stories that they collected appeared in their first published book, which was 1812. The book was called Kinder- und Hausmärchen, or Children's and Household Stories, which
Aha.
was later known as Grimm's Fairy Tales.
Yes, the one we all know and love.
Yeah, and this particular story, the title of the story we're going to talk about, is Der Froschkönig oder der Eiserne Heinrich. How's my German, Andy?
It's pretty good. Your Ich-Lauts could be a little bit crisper, but otherwise solid A minus.
I only took 2 semesters of German, so that's fair. um, in English, this is the Frog Prince or Iron Henry. That's the whole title. And
It's such
we'll
a
get
German title.
we'll get to why there's an Iron Henry for some reason. But for many of you, you're probably familiar with the story of the Princess and the Frog, which is not to be confused with the Frog Princess, which apparently is a completely different story from Eastern Europe. And similar though it is, it's not as violent as the original.
Yes, and both are very different from the Disney property. Do not confuse these ones. Very different stories.
Completely different, yeah. So the Frog Prince or Iron Henry begins with a young princess playing with a golden ball near a fountain, which she accidentally drops into the fountain. A talking frog then tells her that he will retrieve the ball in exchange for taking him to her castle and allowing him to eat from her plate and sleep in her bed for a night.
Seems very
Uh,
reasonable.
yeah, reasonable ask, but the princess, she agrees, knowing full well she's not going to keep this promise. And as soon as the
Mm.
frog gets her ball, she runs away.
Oh,
Very rude.
classic princess behavior. Mm.
Hmm. It only gets worse from here.
Oh no.
So back at the castle, the princess and her father, the king, are having dinner when the frog knocks on the door, shows up, and says, "Hey, king, your daughter is not keeping her promise. It's totally
Mm.
rude."
Mm.
And the king's like, "Hey, you should keep your promises. You're a princess." Um,
Dude, W King.
Honestly,
Man.
yeah, that is a good lesson.
Yeah.
He's a good dad.
Good dad.
Uh, right now he's a good dad. Later on, questionable. But so the princess reluctantly lets the frog eat from her plate, even though it grosses her out. And then when it comes to bedtime, the frog is like, "Am I gonna sleep in your bed? Can you help me up?" And she's like, "No, gross. You can't sleep in my bed."
To be
And
fair,
so,
to
yeah,
be fair, I agree. But
yeah.
she made a promise.
She did. And so then when she says, "No, I'm not going to let you in my bed," the frog is like, "Well, I'm going to tell your dad then. I'm going to snitch." Which to that, the princess literally says, "Snitches get stitches," takes the frog and throws it against the wall.
What is happening?
But fear not, this does not kill the frog, which the princess hoped it would have. But it actually breaks a curse that was on a handsome prince. So
Mm.
after she throws the frog against the wall, the curse literally breaks,
Mm.
and a prince appears.
Yeah, the prince just he poofs into existence. He's like, "Joke's on you, princess. I'm into that."
And into that he is, because after that he's like, "Hey, you want to get married? I'm gonna call for a carriage and we can get married next morning."
Mm. Convenient.
Yeah. And he asked the father, and the father's like, "Yeah, random stranger that was in my daughter's bedroom. You can marry her."
It's like I've been trying to marry her for like 7 years. You're
She
not the
kind
first weirdo to get hit against that wall. Is all I'm saying.
of So, um they're gonna get married. The prince is like, "All right, I'm taking you to my kingdom." The next morning, they call a carriage that arrives to take them back. And you may think that's where the story ends, but for all of those who are wondering, why is the Frog Prince also referred to as Iron Henry?
I was
Well,
wondering that is the prince's name Iron Henry Jade?
no, no, no. So the person that picks up the prince and princess in the carriage is actually the prince's loyal servant, Henry.
Ah, okay.
Henry was full of grief when his master went missing,
Hmm.
and he was so upset that he decided to put 3 iron bands around his heart so that it would stop it from breaking.
Very advanced German engineering at the time.
Hmm. And then he's so happy to see them that on the trip back to the kingdom, one by one, Henry's iron bands break after his heart swells with happiness, and almost, hits the prince. But you know, the end.
That was the most German thing I have ever heard. In fact, I loved it so much. I think I may feel my heart swelling.
Well, I'm just gonna duck for cover so your iron bands don't fly at me.
Mm, probably a good choice. Yeah. So translating our frogs into D&D creatures, the bullywugs don't actually appear in first edition. Very sad. They didn't make it into
Wah
the white
wah.
box. Yeah, wah, wah. They didn't make it into the white box set. Which, to be fair, there was a lot of stuff that went in there. Gary Gygax and crew kind of had their hands full, so we'll give them a
Mhm.
pass on that one. Bullywugs, they made their first appearance in AD&D. Not at the start of AD&D, actually in 1981 with the release of AD&D's Fiend Folio. And kind of a fun fact, Bullywugs are the creation of Gary Gygax and his son, Luke Gygax. So Luke stated in interviews that when he was around 10 years old, he and his father created these creatures, talking about the bullywugs, after exploring the creek in their backyard and catching tadpoles.
When we were researching this, I thought it was a sweet moment, and we just had to mention it because you can really tell that those two put a lot of love into the Bullywogs, especially from reading their description in the Fiend Folio.
Yeah, yeah. So in the Fiend Folio, yeah, speaking of cute, bullywugs are described as a quote Batrachian race of bipedal monsters which inhabit wet places, rainy forests, marshes, damp caves, etc. For bullywugs need to dampen their skin from time to time. Luke Gygax, little 10-year-old Luke. He pulled out an encyclopedia, found the word Batrachian, and was like, we have to use this for something. Which for non-biology people like me, Batrachian simply refers to a tailless amphibian of the order Anura, aka frogs and toads. Which, the order Anura, that's my personal favorite classification of squishy water-dwelling quadrupeds.
You've never heard of that word before today, have you?
No, absolutely, I have not. In terms of battle, bullywugs focus on ambushing their prey due to their advantage of having the, quote, chameleon-like power of camouflage. So as written, this camouflage is actually pretty powerful. According to the text, a motionless bullywug using its camouflage power has a 75% chance of not being seen, even if a character is using infravision, which we know later on this becomes dark vision, but starts out as infravision, because along with changing the color to match its surroundings, the bullywug can also match its body heat to the surrounding temperatures.
Holy cow,
Yeah.
predator out here.
Yeah. This is some like high level amphibian shit. Like very impressive little batrachians. If the bullywug attacks after going unnoticed, it has a 3 in 6 chance of surprising the players, or a 5 in 6 chance if it uses a hopping attack. Which I know that sounds silly, but the hopping attack is no joke.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
No, it's not. Bullywugs get bonuses to both their attack and the damage roll if they are using a hopping attack. They can hop forward. Now, granted, this is AD&D rules, right? So a little bit different from how we think about D&D in the current edition, but they can hop forward 3 inches or upwards 1.5 inches. And if they do that, they can add a +1 to hit. If they perform this hopping attack while using an impaling weapon like a spear, then they get to do double damage if they are successful. Which, keep in mind, these are low-level monsters. Once again, your group of plucky adventurers can very quickly find themselves getting stabbed to death by aerial frogs.
When you put it like that, it sounds so scary.
Yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. Speaking of bad times, as amphibious creatures, bullywugs are extremely strong swimmers, right? Would make sense. Most things that live in land and in water are going to be pretty good at doing both. Now, when unencumbered by armor, bullywugs have an impressive swim speed of 15 inches per round. And even when they wear armor and are using a shield, their swim speed is still about 9 inches per round. For comparison, according to the AD&D First Edition Dungeon Master's Guide, the base movement of an unencumbered human, right? So wearing either leather armor or lightly padded armor, right, is about 12 inches on dry land. Swimming in this edition mimics movement in a dungeon, which is slower than movement outdoors. So the swimming rate is going to be less than that average 12 inches per round. If your character has armor or equipment, that will slow this rate even further. That said, according to the Dungeon Master's Guide, it says it's impossible to wear metal armor while swimming unless it's magic. If you choose to keep your equipment on while you're swimming, the heavier the equipment is, the more your chance of drowning rises, rising about 2% per 5 rounds of encumbrance. That's all to say, if you're a player, you have no chance of winning a water battle with a bullywug.
Yes, never get involved in a land war with Asia, never invade Russia in the winter, and never get involved with a water war with bullywugs.
Yes, I feel like Sun Tzu said that at some point.
I was quoting more from The Princess Bride, but
Oh, well, that's the Sun Tzu of the 1980s. So lore-wise, bullywugs live in a tribal society that is headed by a tribal leader. Leaders of larger tribes have a 10% chance of being a shaman. So, get some nice little magic abilities there. Bullywugs are categorized, the Fiend Folio, as chaotic evil, which to me is kind of strange because in their description, it specifically says that they form organized bands with a leader. Which unlike goblin tribes, bullywugs are not said to be always vying for power. That doesn't seem very chaotic.
Yeah, it's strange that they call them chaotic evil, but we'll see later on how they amend this.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Luckily, the later designers catch these issues that we are catching on in retrospect. Now, what does feel chaotic is that bullywugs will often work with chaotic evil masters, some of them even human. Now, that's not really the most chaotic thing about them. Their description does throw in that there are rumors that there are human bullywug crossbreeds that are viable.
Mm-mm.
I can only imagine what that would look like. We talked in the last episode about the super in-depth descriptions of the reproduction and lifestyle of the frog hemoth. Now we're getting discussions of human bullywug crossbreeds. I really need to know what was happening during the writing sessions for the AD&D lore.
I
Um,
really feel like it's just scary Gygax. It's just his thing that he likes to talk about, and that's okay.
and that's okay, right? We all know the very in-depth descriptions. I don't even know if I want to say it, but basically what Ed Greenwood was really into. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a later episode, but I don't want to talk about it now.
No. There were
um,
some strange guys that headed the creation of D&D, but you know what? It's
yes,
D&D. It
yes,
has to be a little weird.
that's true. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Those giants just may have been into some weird shit. Uh, now, bullywugs have their own primitive language, and some of the smarter bullywugs in this edition can speak some of common. Bullywugs are said to have a range of intelligence, with some tribes being smarter than others. The difference in intelligence actually creates a tension between different bullywug tribes, as the less advanced bullywugs are said to hate their smarter brethren and will often wage war against them.
Aw,
Yeah. It's like, oh, how dare you be
can't we get along?
yeah, no, you're smarter than me. I'm gonna kill you. However, if there's anything bullywugs hate more than each other, it is the Sahaugen, who are these evil fish people from the sea who come out of the deep specifically to pick on bullywugs. And by pick on, I of course mean murder and eat them. This is not to be confused with the Kuatoa, who are a different fish people who are completely insane and live in the Underdark. So no relation there. Now, interestingly enough, because bullywugs are often inhabiting the same swampy environments that lizard folk are, and lizard folk are, pretty ferocious in their own right. But
Mhm.
lizard folk and bullywugs are chill. According to the lore, they have like no issues and no beef. So that's good to know.
I really love that. Like the early editions always talk about, oh, this race hates this race, blah blah blah. But then they're like, no, bullywugs and lizardfolk are chill. They're friends, and I'd like to think that that kept on through the editions.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of cold blooded. I'm kind of cold blooded. Let's just like be in the sun together, man.
Let's just chill.
Let's just chill. Also, it's cold. Let's get in the sun. Let's get in the sun.
Yep. So speaking of changes, let's move on to second edition, where bullywugs appear in the 1993 Monstrous manual.
Monstrous.
We unfortunately lose the Batrachian description, and in this edition, bullywugs are simply described as bipedal frog-like amphibians.
Mm.
Boring.
Yeah, lost some of that personal touch, but I'm with it.
Yeah, they do add some more details about the bullywug's physical features, such as their size ranges, which starts from a small 4 feet tall and go all the way up to a 7 feet tall, which is considered a medium size in
Oh,
D&D.
terrifying. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Giant frog
It's gonna
standing over you.
Yeah. He's like
Scary.
he's like I heard you tried to eat my flies. Like you can have all of the flies. I'm sorry.
More descriptions say that their olive green skin is unusually tough, giving them a natural armor. But while they don't necessarily wear clothes, the passage states that all bullywugs wear armor and use weapons and shields when they're available. I kind of like this, when they're available language because I'm kind of
Mhm.
envisioning a band of belligerent bullywugs running at a party armed with implements that they are clearly not able to handle. It probably took from other adventurers who are also probably dead.
Yeah, no, I like that, right? That gives a little bit more character than just, a bunch of wet frog dudes show up, hop at you, and slap your wizard in the face. Roll initiative.
The poor wizard.
That poor
He's
wizard.
down.
Yeah, it's second edition. He's dead.
Speaking of slapping, their fighting style actually doesn't change much from first edition, other than updating the wording. Instead of inches, it's feet, and
Mm,
instead of hit die, it's attack roll.
thank goodness.
Yeah, much easier to understand. But the bullywugs still have strong camouflage skills. The wording's simplified a little bit, stating that it adds a -2 penalty to an opponent's surprise roll. So whenever a player character, is checking the surroundings, make sure they're not surprised, they get a -2 to that, so that the bullywugs have advantage of surprising them.
Hey, that makes sense.
Hmm. But the fighting style doesn't change much. But what really gets more attention in this edition is the description of Bullywog society.
We are lore goblins here on the
Oh, I'm
Browsing the
excited.
Bestiary podcast. We like this.
Hmm. Some of the details that are actually really interesting, and some of them are a little bit disappointing, and I'll explain why later. But the more interesting details claim that Bullywogs are no longer simple tribes frogs, but depending on their intelligence levels, they live in organized or semi-organized, socially fascist groups.
Oh, oh no.
Mhm. With their sole purpose being to eat and reproduce.
Okay.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
why do I have a bad feeling about the reproduce part, Jade?
Well, you guessed right, because guess who does all the reproducing? It is solely on the female bullywugs.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
The yeah. The manual specifically states, quote, "Males are the dominant sex and females only exist to lay eggs." Where have I heard that before,
Oh.
Andy? Mm,
Uh, uh, like
mm.
I'm hoping because they're specifically saying this is a socially fascist group that the designers are going, and we really don't approve of that. I want to hope that's
Mhm.
where they were coming from.
I'm hoping that too, but seeing some of the other creatures that we've talked about, like goblins, I don't know.
Ugh.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But then again, while I don't like the sexism that's present in older editions, I do appreciate that some of the writers attempted to kind of make sense of it. For example, in the 1993 Complete Book of Humanoids, which actually came out before the Monstrous Manual, so I don't know how much of this is like retconning.
Mhm. Mhm.
But the Complete Book of Humanoids featured Bullywugs as a player character race. And in the role playing suggestions section for Bullywogs, it says female Bullywogs are often the ones who would leave their lair and become adventurers due to the limited roles in their own society.
Oh. Okay. All right. I
Yeah,
dig it. I
yeah.
dig it.
I thought that brought a lot of nuance to the, tired old tale. Females are birthing machines, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I
So
mean, makes sense. Like, hey, if I'm just here to lay eggs, screw that. I'm gonna go, I don't know, go slap a wizard in the face.
exactly. Yeah, you can imagine a young female bullywog who's never been exposed to the outside world and has only known the rules of her strict and fascistic society, and now kind of has to navigate a chaotic and diverse world.
Mm. Mhm.
So, I think I found my next character.
Ooh,
Not gonna lie.
I love it. I love it.
So because of the fascistic nature of Bullywug society, obviously the hierarchy is going to be very strict.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it in the hierarchy, the only reverence given is to the Bullywug leader and their bizarre frog god. That's quote unquote bizarre frog god, which their god Ramanos was established in the monster mythology published in 1992. Ramanos is said to be a lazy god who spends most of its time in hibernation. It is a lesser god with the domains of somnolence, intoxication, and decay. Or, to simplify it, it's nap, drink, rot. Which is kind of just a typical Saturday afternoon for me.
Well, I mean, they had me at the nap and the drink, but the rot part, I'm like, ah, yeah,
Yeah, just raw in bed a little.
yeah, yeah, just a little bit. So
Literally.
the rots where the evil part comes through, I think.
Yeah, I
For
think so.
Ferromenos, not for you, of course.
Yep. So the hierarchy is so strict in Bullywug society that Bullywugs actually rarely fight with each other. Like I said, the only reverence is given to the leader and the god. Everyone else is kind of on the same playing field.
Huh.
So no one's vying for power in their own group, which is pretty unlike other chaotic evil races that we've talked about, like goblins.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. At least with the other chaotic races that come to mind, right? There's lots of jockeying and, cloak and dagger and political maneuvering. So I don't
mhm.
know, bullywugs seeming a little neutral evil to me.
Yeah, exactly. And the manual goes on to state like basically, um, they don't fight for power because they're too dumb. Literally, what the manual says. Yeah,
No.
the only time fighting occurs in the tribe is when the current leader, becomes too old, and the largest and most dominant bullywog decides to kill and eat the old king in order to become the new one. So yeah, bullywog's too dumb to be ambitious, whatever that means.
So, if they're just dumb little guys, Jade, I'm
Yes.
assuming that means no wizards?
No wizards, too dumb.
No wizards, too dumb. No wizards.
Nope. Actually, you're correct. But guess what? Guess what?
Oh.
There are shamans.
Ah, okay. All right.
Yeah. So actually, for every 10 advanced bullywogs in a community, there is a 10% chance that one of them will be a second level shaman.
Now, Jade, I have to ask, what
Hmm
on earth
hmm
is an advanced bullywug?
I'm glad you asked, actually, because while there's no fighting within each bullywog tribe, they make up for it by fighting outside of their tribes.
Ah, mhm.
See, when it comes to bullywogs from other tribes or any other creature that dares enter their territory, stupidity is kind of superseded by hate.
I'm starting to see where some of the chaos is coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the bullywogs and their advanced bullywogs, aka larger, more intelligent bullywogs, will wage war with each other whenever they get the chance. Advanced bullywogs will specifically create well-organized raiding parties with the sole purpose of fighting with their smaller cousins.
That just seems so counterproductive, but just so on brand.
It's just dumb.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
Yes, but bullywogs, both advanced and not advanced, are described as rather poor hunters. Not in that they're bad at hunting, but they're actually too good at hunting.
Okay.
And much like goblins, they will harvest, hunt, and fish until the area is completely depleted of resources.
Ah,
Yeah, this kind of essentially disrupts the territory's ecosystem until they move on to the next one.
gotcha. So, another menace.
Yes, another menace to nature. But bullywugs, they hunt mainly for food, but they also really love treasure. Coins, jewels, the occasional magic item. Though really, they don't have a use for these things. They may sometimes have a shaman, but in this description, they're never described as using like magic items.
Mm, gotcha. They,
Mm,
they they can't hold a candle to the goblins on that one.
no, no. But the other thing that bullywogs prize, especially the advanced ones,
Oh.
is human flesh.
Oh God, what?
Yeah. In this edition, bullywogs don't hate lizard folk or the fish folk. They just really hate human beings.
Mm.
Uh, so much so that they'll take their skin as a prize. Delightful.
Oh, lovely. Very, very normal and well adjusted.
Yeah.
Very good.
There's your chaos for you
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's chaotic. Yeah, 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 yeah. With the Warhammer fans out there, like chaos. Um, So that's second edition. Moving right
Mhm.
along into third edition. Third edition 3.5, bullywugs actually do not appear in any of the monster manuals.
What?
Yeah, they show up in a supplemental bestiary called Monster Compendium Monsters of Faerun, which was published in
Mm.
2001. Okay, folks, say it with me. Third edition goes
Edition goes hard.
hard. Right? Listen to this description of bullywugs in Monsters of Faerun. Quote, life as a bullywug is nasty, brutish, and wet. Bullywugs kill for sport, systematically destroy their own hunting grounds, and make a religious fetish of summoning monsters who may or may not stay within their control.
Insane description. I just love third edition so much.
Yeah. Here, I'm like, that's chaotic. Yes, that's a chaotic creature. So now, according to the third edition lore, bullywugs, they're not just unwittingly destroying their local ecosystem, but they are also systematically and indiscriminately hunting the local prey into extinction.
Mhm.
They are not there just to hunt, fish, feed themselves. So like, no, I see a living thing, it's dead. Plant, it's dead. Animal,
Very
it's dead.
scary.
Yes. Human being, it's dead. The Bullywug's fighting style carries over some aspects from the previous editions. They keep their camouflage abilities. They still get their superior underwater fighting skills.
Mhm.
But third edition does make some major changes, which includes taking away the Bullywug's hopping attack, so they no longer gain bonuses.
Boo.
I
Boo hit.
know. I know. Like, it's a fun, unique thing. This is gone. This is part of a kind of an upsetting trend of later editions in general, third, fourth,
Mhm.
and then fifth, taking away unique fighting skills of monsters. Um, but they do get the ability to summon creatures.
Oh, no.
Oh no, that's right. As the passage also mentions, bullywugs now have clerics who will often
Hmm.
summon monsters into battle to wear down their opponents. Getting some of that good Ramanos juice to make angry little critters. The summon monster spell in the third edition player's handbook says this spell summons an outsider, which is basically just an extraplanar creature that attacks your enemies. An outsider in this context is a monster type, and there are subtypes beneath that, including celestial, fiendish, that can be devil or demon, and elemental. These subtypes can apply to any creature and determine the alignment of the spell. For example, a casting of Summon Monster at first level could summon a Fiendish Dire Rat or a Celestial Dog. Now, if that seems a little confusing to navigate, dear listener, you are not alone.
Yeah, it was a bit of a headache trying to keep all of that straight when we were researching it. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
fiendish dire rat, celestial dog. That just sounds. I mean, obviously it is made up, but it sounds even more made up. If that makes sense.
I don't think a game designer would ever make this. This is too
No,
silly.
it's silly, but even though they take away some of the like unique aspects of monsters, our current edition does a good job of kind of streamlining everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a bullywog cleric stat block would automatically come with the ability to summon specific creatures, and then the summonal, summonable creatures would have their own creature stat blocks. And this helps a lot with it strips back a lot, but it also helps keep it easier for everyone.
Yeah, for all of you DMs out there, you know how cluttered your notes can get with what can do what thing. So it's nice when you have a
Mm.
stat block and you just look at it. It says, okay, it does this. Thank you. Oh, yeah, it summons a creature. Oh, it's right there on the same page. Thank you, fifth edition people. Thank you, Jeremy Crawford.
Even when it says that though, I still forget to read it sometimes.
Well, you know,
Not gonna lie.
yeah, there's a lot going on in a session. I think we're allowed to forget some things now and then.
Mm.
Now, bullywugs, of course, are still not the smartest of little guys, and their clerics are very limited in the spells they can cast and the amount of control they can cast them with. Going back to that description for third edition,
Mm.
bullywug clerics can only perform three types of spells: summoning spells, which is their choice; inflict spells, or their domain spells. Now, Bullywug clerics have a 50% chance of summoning one more monster than they intended. Okay, that's not too bad, right? I accidentally
Mm.
called more allies to battle. What's not so great, though, is that there is a 25% chance that those monsters will not be under the Bullywug's control and will start attacking them.
Big oof.
Big oof. I can see why they can't be wizards. Um,
Too
surprisingly,
dumb.
yeah. Too dumb. Surprisingly, this entry for Bullywugs does not mention the constant war between the smaller, less intelligent Bullywugs and their more advanced cousins. Instead, the entry goes on to say that Bullywugs are in a constant state of war with another group of humanoid frog-like creatures called Civs. Civs are smaller and smarter than Bullywugs, though not less bigoted for some reason.
Mm.
Civs are lawful evil. Chaotic and lawful. Can't have that. Gotta fight. And prefer to have more calculated and controlled fights, wearing down their enemies with ranged attacks like slings and nets before they engage in melee.
Mm.
So while Bullywugs are the more brutish warrior type, Civs are more of the like elitist monk types, staying in relative isolation and using the dumber and more brutish Bullywugs kind of as a buffer between them and the outside world.
Fair
Um,
enough. They just don't want to be bothered. That's fair.
yeah, exactly. Just go deal with my dumb cousin. He's yeah. Go deal with him. In the marshes of Chelimber, the Bullywugs believe they're in a constant war for control over the fringes of the marshes with the Civs, but they actually lost that war a long time ago. According to the lore passage, the Civs allow the Bullywugs to live so that they can act as a barrier to keep their dwellings, the Civ dwellings, isolated. Now, this is just a theory, but I think the more advanced Bullywugs from previous editions evolved into the smaller Civs. And then the bigger, advanced Bullywugs split off to become leaders of the less advanced Bullywugs, right? And the smaller ones evolved into Civs. But that's just a theory.
A game theory.
A game theory. We love Matt Pat.
R.I.P. Matt Pat. He's not dead. He just retired.
Yeah. Hopefully he's doing well, relaxing, maybe on a beach somewhere, yelling at the sand.
Oh man. But yeah, that's third edition Bullywugs. All right. Andy.
Tell us, Jayde. Tell us your feelings about 4th edition.
As much listen here, I'm gonna get so mad and loud right now, guys. I'm sorry. But as much as I love 4th edition's artwork, I absolutely hate its lore. Because what are you doing, 4th edition? Why are you retconning perfectly good lore into something stupid? Listen, 4th edition really has this kind of like weird fetish of taking something and they love making it more mysterious and taking a pseudo-theological approach to every creature's backstory and then make it some kind of myth, So, for example, they're originated from some ancient, long-lost civilization, cough, cough, hobgoblins, for some reason.
Yeah.
Or, like Bullywugs, they believe they're made from primordial beings, which...
Okay.
Why can't we just have our humanoid frogs just be humanoid frogs? Why does everything have to be so deep? It's not that deep, guys. It's not that
But the fantasy lore doesn't have to be that deep, guys.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And sometimes it works. For example, 4th edition's Froghemoth we talked about, that it made up a myth that, Froghemoths may have mutated from frogs due to their massive radiation, or, they may have been made by a mad scientist named Bob. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And I would say that's fitting for the Froghemoth. But for, say, goblins and hobgoblins, bad. Hate it. Hate it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same exact way for 4th edition's lore on Bullywugs.
Yeah. And, while I do give props, by the time 4th edition comes around, we have a lot of different settings, right? We have Forgotten Realms, we have Eberron, we have Greyhawk, we have Dark Sun, we have Dragonlance. And it's cool to have differences, I think, right, between these different settings. But
Mhm.
the problem is 4th edition doesn't always do that, right? They'll just be like, "Ah, all of it's this way." And it's like, "4th edition, why couldn't you have
No.
just why couldn't you have left that lore the same, and then for this other setting, then you changed the lore? Come on, 4th edition." So, yeah, I
No, 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 'cause, they had to add more supplements, Andy. More supplements, even though they made the lore the same, they have to have more supplements.
That's true, that's true. The gamers yearn for the supplement mines.
What's the point of supplements if you're just gonna keep the same stupid lore? I just don't
What, are you
understand.
not gonna buy the supplements, Jayde?
No, no, because listen to this, okay? Out of the many 4th edition supplements, Bullywugs only appear in the Monster Manual 2, which was published in 2009. And then
Mhm,
listen
mhm.
to this description of the Bullywug. I'm gonna read the whole first paragraph. It says, quote, nasty and noisome, Bullywugs turn any swamp they inhabit into a dismal echo of the land it once was. So much so that even they view their existence as innately askew. Bullywogs sense this wrongness as a heightened paranoia, a feeling that everyone is out to kill them. And it's true. Creatures that attack a bullywog with extreme power or precision find themselves blessed by a moment of clarity and renewed strength, as if the natural world were thanking them. End quote.
Okay.
Mm-hmm,
Alright, that's getting a little woo-woo, like, come on.
right? Like it's the first part was normal.
Yeah, it
The other
started off
edition,
okay. I liked the
yeah, yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, the other editions mention how destructive bullywugs are to their surroundings, but then they have to make it all pseudo-religious with the spirit of nature randomly declaring these guys as enemy and granting out free bonuses for any plucky adventurers that murder them. It just doesn't make any sense. And this is Andy. This is a setting where the deities are literally roaming the planet,
Yeah,
right?
there were 2 whole sunderings that happened at this point.
Two sunderings, and they're on the planet, and they couldn't even pick one of them, like one of the many nature deities. Maybe there's an ancient feud between a nature deity and Ramnos.
Mhm, mhm,
Like
mhm.
come on, like we have kobolds over here hating gnomes forever because of an age-old prank between their gods. Why not bullywogs? Why are they getting extra wailed on just because?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who doesn't know and enjoy the tale of, Garl Glittergold trapping Kurtlemock inside of a forever maze? It's a classic.
It's a classic, and we could have had the same thing with Bullywugs, but no. Like it's not even that hard to make lore if you want to get all theological with it. Listen, I'll do it right now.
Should do it
Andy,
right now.
pretend I'm a game designer.
Yes, you can't see me right now, right? But I'm sitting here, very attentive, right? Go off, queen. Go off.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. Picture this: Shantaea, goddess of life and bounty,
Mhm.
basically kind of the Gaia of Forgotten Realms.
Mhm, mhm.
She cares a lot about Toril, which is basically Earth, in this setting, and she cares about how it can enrich the lives of its inhabitants, and she's especially fond of meadows, which provide so much to the mortals, both in terms of beauty and utility, that she cares for it a lot.
Mhm.
So okay,
Very strong so far. I'm into it.
yeah, yeah, okay. So then one day, Ramenos decides to hibernate, or rather, lays about in these meadows, and the lazy lesser deity decides to take all it can from the meadow until there's nothing left and destroys the surrounding ecosystem, forcing all of the mortals that once enjoyed those bounties leave. Right. So Shantaea, who is rightfully angered by this misuse of her land, curses Ramnos and its worshippers, the Bullywogs, and you know, to forever live unwanted in nature, and blesses those who take the time to eliminate the continuing scourge on the land. The end. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, wizards hire this woman. Like she could have done all of for E's lore, and it would have been great. Would have slapped.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. Right? So see, it's not even that hard if you're going to change the lore of a creature. At least make it more interesting than I don't know, hates bullywogs cuz.
I mean, seriously though, right? Like, why be vague when we have this really rich world of lore, and deities and planes and stuff like that? Just be like, nah, it's just cause is the vibes
Yeah,
were off.
yeah, they had bad
They had
vibes, and
bad vibes. Nature hates them.
and then that's not the only like strange lore that the manual includes for bullywogs. The other strange lore is that one, bullywogs believe they were created by primordials,
Okay.
not the gods, which is why in this edition, for some reason, they speak primordial. Don't know
Mm.
why they speak primordial, but not frog, or their
Huh.
frog like language. Yeah.
Huh.
And then the other weird thing, number two, is it says bullywogs engage in so much savagery because they believe that this will allow them to reincarnate as sloths, which sloths are bigger and even more chaotic frog-like creatures, which will be a doozy when we get to them. But for right now, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, no, because sloths are aberrations, right? Why
Yeah.
why would things that are believed that they're created by primordials want to become aberrations? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, in the fourth edition, I looked at the slots, and they also think they were created by primordials. So I don't know.
I'm so 4E, go home. You're drunk.
You're drunk for you. Nope, nope.
Nope.
Yeah, it's don't like it, don't love it. Yeah. Any other thoughts about this Andy before we move on? Because I'm just so annoyed with 4E, and I have a feeling this will be a trend. From continuing episodes, but
No, I mean I'm with you. The history of D&D is very kind of funny, right? Because you start with
mm,
kind of a good base of a thing for a creature, right? And then it gets more fleshed out in second edition. In third edition, it becomes very cool. And then the
mhm,
fourth edition rewrites are usually just a step backwards lore wise, right?
yeah.
You get some good like combat utility, and that's where I think
Mhm.
4E really shines. But the lore is just a mess.
It's just so
It's
messy,
just
but
a mess, and I don't know why.
oh well. Anyway, let's get back on track, shall we?
Jumping back in, hopping
Yeah.
back in,
Hopping, yep. Hopping attack. Extra damage.
extra damage.
Extra damage to my heart.
Yes.
So yeah, as we can see, in fourth edition's lore, it kind of manifests into the bullywog stat blocks, for each subclass. The bullywog has, so for each stat block for different bullywogs, they have a disadvantage effect called Nature's Release, which
Ugh.
is basically states that any creature who scores a critical hit on the bullywog regains between 3 to 5 hit points, depending on the class of the bullywog. So yeah,
Okay.
that lore kind of comes out there. Good for whoever crits, I guess.
Yeah, it just seems unnecessary. I
Yeah, and
don't.
then and then the bullywogs also have a passive trait called Rancid Air, which is a poison aura that surrounds the bullywog, causing enemies near it to become weaker if they spend a turn healing. Again, this it fits well with 4E lore, but it doesn't really fit with the previous lore of bullywogs.
Yeah, which I still like that one better than the Nature's Release. That,
Y-
I don't
Yeah,
know. The Nature's Release, once again, the vibes are off. I'm not with it.
yeah. I mean, you could even make it like, oh, maybe the bullywogs have some kind of interesting like plasma on their skin, and whenever someone gets a critical hit, it heals them. Like you just change it a little bit,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Like it's ah
But
ah.
like you said, Andy, um, even though I don't like fourth edition's lore, that's it's not really its strength. Where fourth edition really shines is in its stat blocks.
Mhm. Mhm.
Which for some reason, some of the stat blocks do pull from earlier lore, better than the lore sections.
That's ugh.
Yeah. So in this manual, there are four types of bullywog. There's the bullywog mucker, twitcher, croaker, and the mudlord.
I like the sound of the Mud Lord.
Yeah, the
That
mudlord's
is
pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to the Mudlord, but, you know, pulling from previous lore, for example, the Bullywug Mucker has an ability called Bullywug Rush, in which the Bullywug will rush at an opponent, and if it hits, it does a good amount of damage and knocks the enemy prone. Which prone is basically you get knocked on your back. You have to take extra movement to get back
Mhm,
up.
mhm.
When the enemy is prone, the Bullywug Mucker has an ability called Bully,
Huh.
which allows it to do extra damage. So that yeah, this is kind of reminiscent of wanting into a Bullywug's hopping attack. So that the Bullywug bounces at the enemy and knocks it down, and it does extra damage if it has a melee weapon. Something similar to that is what the Bullywug Mucker does.
Yeah, no, and that one makes a lot of sense, right? The hop is, more of a bull rush, a
Hmm.
charge, right? But there is, I move, I do more damage, bully.
Bully. Which I kind of imagine as they're doing extra damage, it's like insult to injury. It's just like
Yeah.
telling
Hey,
the
fuck
person throat,
you. Hey, get
"You
out of
idiot, you
here.
fell down,
Yeah.
idiot.
Oh,
Go
what are you
take your
doing
lunch
down there?
money."
Did you fall over? What a fucking idiot.
Yeah. So that's the Bullywog Wucker, and then the Bullywog Twitchers. Basically, they sporadically hop around the battlefield, attacking out of nowhere with javelins, making it difficult to both hit the Twitchers and guard against their attacks. They have a pretty good dexterity,
Okay.
and then Bullywog Croakers are basically just big guys who spray poison. Yeah,
Hey, I'm on
that's
board with that. It's a cool
their
name,
gimmick.
it's a cool ability. I croak,
Yeah.
you get poisoned, then you croak, but death croak.
But that's that like we said, that's not even the neatest one. The Bullywug Mudlord. I have to say, first of
Mm.
all, it's got a pretty neat
It's
name,
a great name.
and the stat block lives up to that name. It is a high intelligence Bullywug that specializes in long range magical attacks. Two of the magical attacks are called Electric Reflux, which is
Okay.
a cold and lightning damage
Okay.
attack. Yeah, really cool.
Okay.
And then the other attack is called a Fiery Croak, which is fire and thunder damage.
Okay.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
4E, you're making me come back around.
Oh,
Okay.
but then the Bullywug Mudlord also gets an ability called Necessary Sacrifices, which gives +2 to hit when the Mudlord attacks if an ally is in its area. But not really sure why it's called Necessary Sacrifices when it doesn't really seem to affect the ally. Just maybe that's 4E rules. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah.
the name doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah, which if there are any 4E aficionados out there, please message us to clarify. But that doesn't make any sense. Why is it called
Mm-mm.
sacrifices?
No,
Like,
no. So yeah,
it's weird.
cool attacks, but then weird effects.
Yeah.
So again,
Well,
4E, you disappoint.
yes. Yeah. Big sigh. Big sigh.
Big sigh. But yeah. So one final complaint I have about 4E Bullywogs before we move on to 5E. Um, my question is, why 4E? Why do the Bullywogs have boobs in the artwork?
Which, to be fair, right? The 4E artwork across the board, pretty great. A lot of great
Mhm.
stuff. Um, but there are also like an inexplicable amount of creatures that just randomly get boobs in this edition, right? They
What?
never had boobs before. They have boobs in 4th edition, and the boobs are never spoken of again.
It's just I don't know. Like the boobs on the bugbears make sense, I
Oh,
guess,
yeah.
because they're more mammalian. But for bullywogs, they are frogs.
Yeah.
Why do they
Yes.
have
It's like 4E artists, stop horny frog posting on Maine. I beg of you.
so many furries worked on 4E, and so many furries came out of 4E.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
it makes
Which all the furries in the community,
we love you.
we love you, we appreciate you. Yes, but also you may have been radicalized into furrydom by 4th edition.
We'll blame 4th edition.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll blame 4th edition.
Anyway, Andy, why don't you tell us about 5th edition?
Yes, so 5th edition, back in the present, where bullywugs appeared in the Monster Manual, which was published in 2014. 5e's version of the bullywug, like many creatures, kind of harkens back to 3rd edition, right? We're just like, 4th edition didn't happen. We're gonna forget about
Mhm.
that. And they specifically kind of, do a callback to 3rd edition's lore wording, beginning the passage with the same nasty, brutish, and wet when describing the life of a bullywug, which I just love that. Right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, you're just right off the bat, you're like, okay, all right, I know what's going on here. Their lives suck. The physical description of the bullywug stays pretty consistent with previous editions, stating that they have green, gray, or mottled yellow skin that shifts through shades of gray, green, or brown, allowing them to blend in with their surroundings.
Mm.
Not as cool as the chameleon powers they had in previous editions, but they do now have a trait called swamp camouflage. And this gives them just a straight advantage on stealth checks to hide in swampy terrain. So,
Makes
oh,
sense.
yeah, which we know how powerful advantage and disadvantage can be in the 5e system. So,
Mhm.
Now, what I really like about this edition is the changes that are made to Bullywug society, right?
Yes.
The
Better lore.
yeah, better lore. Better lore. So no longer are they roving bands of dim-witted barbarians that are constantly at war between the smart-ish ones and the really dumb ones. The designers took the strict, rigid hierarchical society of previous editions and transformed it into a swamp aristocracy. Where
Ooh.
yeah, where each bullywug is ruled by a king or queen. And it states they are always of an unusually large size. There's a big old fat bullywug.
I love it.
Yeah, these self-styled lords of the muck believe that they are the rightful and proper rulers of their swampy territory, and as such, they follow a feudal etiquette when dealing with outsiders and other bullywugs.
Hmm.
The passage states that under this system, quote, bullywugs introduce themselves with grand sounding titles, making great shows of bowing and debasing themselves before their superiors, and endlessly vie to win their superiors' favor. So it would not be out of character, to roll up on, a bullywug, and it would, greet you with, "Ah, hail and well met, good fellows. I am Honora Batrachian, lieutenant vassal to Queen Largesse."
Oh my gosh, stop. That's great.
Now, as ridiculous as Bullywug Society sounds, this description, in my opinion, is much more fitting. And I think you can tell that the writers, they really leaned into the silliness, right? That comes along
Mm.
with the Bullywugs. They've always had some kind of ridiculousness built into their lore. And I think this just really takes it to the place where it should be.
Mhm.
This updated characterization really takes the time to expand upon lore established in previous editions, not 4th edition. Not
Not 4th
4th
edition.
edition. Uh, Finally, we have explanations for the odd characteristics that bullywugs have. So, like, for example, previous editions always stated that bullywugs were different from other chaotic evil beings, which the designers went a full step further and actually made them neutral evil in 5th edition.
Mhm.
Um, and
Makes
that,
sense.
yeah, makes sense. And specifically stating because they are not constantly murdering their rivals to move up in the ranks. It was implied in previous editions that this would get them into trouble, but 5e finally says it outright, leading fully into the ridiculous authoritarian nature of bullywug society. To kind of paraphrase the lore passage, bullywugs can improve their station by murdering their rivals, but because of the strict hierarchy, this will most likely result in them getting executed if they're caught. So, additionally, right, because they can't
Mm.
kill their rivals to move up in society, they can curry favor with their betters by bringing them fine clothing, jewelry, and other pretty things to try to secure a better position under their amphibious authoritarian ruler.
That makes so much more sense than the, like, goblins always killing each other. It just bring I think it kind of brings back the feeling of old fairy tales
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like these silly little creatures like playing, uh, being anthropomorphic in their play and just hamming it up to the max, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it's like, "Oh, the little guys think they have a kingdom. Oh, it's so gross, but it's so cute."
But also they'll stab you.
Yeah, yeah, but also, yeah, they'll fucking stab you. So this prompts Bullywug tribes in search of these pretty things, right, to try to
Mm.
basically buy their way into higher positions. Uh, this leads them to raid caravans in nearby settlements in search of treasure. Now, the passage goes on to state, interestingly enough, very different from second edition, that bullywugs prefer to capture rather than kill any trespassers that enter their territory, specifically so that they can bring them before their monarch to make them beg and bargain for their lives. Um, Now, this is really just a ploy to give a bullywug ruler a chance to show off their ill-gotten riches to outsiders. To quote the passage, struck with a deep inferiority complex, bullywug lords fancy themselves as kings and queens, but desperately crave the fear and respect of outsiders.
That's so sad, but also just so hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, you're like, I almost feel bad. You did try to stab me though, but
Yeah.
you just want people to notice you. So stat wise, fifth edition bullywugs, they're very much low level support or cannon fodder enemies on their own. Specifically, they have a CR rating of 1/4.
Oh.
However, you can, if you are a crafty DM and you're going by the lore description, you can use them in huge numbers to try to overwhelm your higher level players.
Hmm.
Also, fun fact, these numbers may or may not include bullywugs mounted on giant frog steeds.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Yes! Why, Jayde, would you ride into battle on a horse when you can ride on a giant frog instead?
A frog on a frog.
Yeah, a
It's
frog and a
great.
frog on a log. Which in the lore passage it says that bullywugs specifically love giant frogs, giant toads, because they can swallow their prey whole, allowing them to bring them back to the lair to put them before the mercy of their swamp lord.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In terms of fighting abilities, bullywugs they get an AC of 15 with hide armor. Their normal HP is nothing impressive. The
Mm.
average is 11. They get an 18 max. Now they do get a multi attack, which is not super common with monsters that are below CR1. Um, Now I will say the multi attack is nothing crazy. It's a mix of their spear attack, which does 1d6 plus 1 piercing damage, or 1d8 plus 1 if they're using two hands. Um,
Mm.
the multi is just this really pathetic bite attack. It does 1d.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Which, frogs don't have teeth. So it does 1d4 plus 1 bludgeoning on a hit. I feel like it's really there just as like kind of an extra insult to your players to be like, and then it bites you.
Which
Um,
to be fair, I feel like I've seen, like, um, nature people hold a frog and it would bite them and be
mhm.
like, "Yeah, this actually does kinda hurt."
Yeah, this kind of hurts. I'm not in danger, but this kind of hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not breaking the skin, but Now that being said, because they have multi attack, a big group of these guys can flatten a low level party, right? Remember, your players don't get multi attack until level 5, so
Yeah.
plan accordingly. Um, they still don't have a hop attack. That's gone for good. Sad.
Boo.
Boo. But they do have an ability called Standing Leap.
Hmm.
This gives them a long jump of up to 20 feet and a high jump of 10 feet without a running start. Which me as a DM, I'm just
Mm.
picturing like WWE style jump slams. They jump up and bring down an elbow just to do like a little bit of extra, improvised bludgeoning damage because why not?
And then they get a chair!
Yeah, the bullet comes in with a chair. In addition to their amphibious ability, which lets them breathe air and water, bullywugs also have an ability called Speak with Frogs and Toads,
Hmm.
which lets them communicate basic concepts to frogs and toads when they are speaking in bullywug. This kind of ties into the lore, which says that they use this ability to form bonds with giant frogs, which they use as mounts and living transports for any prisoners they capture.
Yeah.
Like I
And
said
and
earlier,
the Yeah, and this makes sense too because as we talked about with the Froghemoth, the Bullywogs use their language to make a bond with the Froghemoth. They used it to help them with battle. They also considered the Froghemoth a god. So, we talked
hmm
about that and how they use this special frog language to communicate with all the frogs and toads around them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, which it's important here. Speaking speaking of the frogs and the toads, the lore says that the calls right that are put out in this way using this ability
Mm.
are also used to send messages across the swamp.
Mm.
The passage states specifically, quote, news of intruders or other events in the swamp spread within minutes across this crude communication system, end quote.
Mm.
So, if you are in a swamp and hear a lot more croaking than usual, it's time to leave.
Oh my. Oh no. Just stay out of the swamp.
Yeah,
There's a
stay out of
lot of
this.
people there's a lot of folks in there that just don't want you there.
Don't go there. Yeah, and
It's
the
it's like the ocean. It doesn't want you there. Don't go.
just look at it. Just stand away from it and look at it. That's good
Yeah,
enough.
that's all you need. But yeah, that's 5e.
hmm
And like we've been saying in other episodes, we've been waiting. Right now we're still waiting for the latest monster manual to come out, which is due to come out in February. And looking at it, right now, as for the future of Bullywogs, I'm pretty sure that they're gonna appear in the new monster manual.
hmm hmm
And what my hope is, for that is that they either keep the lore that was established in 5e, or at the very most expand upon it. Maybe some new tidbits on the fighting styles or how the king and queen bullywogs become the ruler of the groups. Because I know in previous lore we talked about how you know other biggest bullywog when the king and queen becomes too old, they kill them,
they eat
and then
them.
they're the new ones. Yeah, then they eat them. So I wonder if that's still the same, if they're gonna keep that lore, if they're gonna do something sillier.
Hmm
Maybe they have to do like silly trials for Ramenos to become the king or queen. I don't know. That'd be fun.
Do the dance, aspirant.
But yeah, I'd also love to see Bullywugs be added as an official player character somewhere down the line because
Yeah.
I think that would be a really compelling and kind of awkward PC that would be loads of fun to play. Because again, remember they come from this silly feudalistic society and then they got to enter the real world basically. It'd be too funny.
Yeah, yeah. Just imagine it's like the Bullywug character, right, is coming to the rest of the party. He's like, "Look, I found this shiny pot. Oh yes. Now what will you give me?" And the other players are just like, "I don't know, man. You just kind of keep that normally."
Yes, it's too good for you. I will keep it
Yes,
in
I
your
will
stead.
keep it. Yes. Yeah, and then imagine the titles that the player character gets to give
Oh,
themselves.
can't wait. Yes. No.
Um,
Oh, yeah, they'll have the best title. Every time they do a new thing in battle, they're like, yes.
I am the brewer of tea. Yes. Yes. No, I agree with you, Jade. I would be surprised, honestly, if they weren't included in the first batch of monsters that come out in the newest monster manual. They're one of those just D&D staple monsters that kind of appears everywhere throughout editions.
Mm,
And they also have a lot of artwork of them throughout every edition.
yeah.
If you just type
Some
in,
with boobs, some without boobs.
yeah, yeah, boobed, boobless. Yeah, so yeah, I think you're right on the money. The fifth edition lore is really a good, development for Bullywugs in the Forgotten Realms setting. And I would like that to just kind of be the baseline going forward.
Hmm.
This is, in my opinion, I think fifth edition, in terms of lore, is the best edition for them. They really feel like a unique monster and not
Hmm.
just like, oh, here's another CR 1/4 thing. All right, throw it at your players, and they're done with it after they reach level 2. So yeah, I would like to see some more official variant stat blocks, kind of like,
Mm.
we had in 4th edition. And even, like we talked about with goblins, there's the goblin boss and then, goblins. It would be kind of nice to see like, lieutenant and then maybe even like a bullywug lord or bullywug monarch or regent stat block.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm really surprised actually that there's no like bullywog boss monster other than the frog myth, but that's a completely different thing.
yeah, that's really its
Yeah.
own thing. I'd love to see like a CR5 or CR6, bullywug boss monster.
Mm.
Really great for when your players are, you know, getting better at doing stuff out in the world, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, we fought these guys.
Oh.
They have a boss. So yeah, there we have it. Bullywugs. They started their time in D&D as nasty, brutish frog barians that love to beat the snot out of each other and consume human flesh. And they have now progressed and matured to become ridiculous swamp tyrants, complete with toad cavalry, a flourishing slave trade, and, if your DM is feeling creative, a corpulent mud monarch wearing a powdered wig. Uh, we hope that this episode's deep dive will help DMs out there use what could have been a, just generic and forgettable low-level creature and scenarios that your players will, really love and find unforgettable. We've reached the point in the episode where we transition over to our scenario for you DMs out there. So I'd like for you to close your eyes and picture this. One more rest, please, then I'll be quite ready to continue. Sprezio sighed loudly as he ran a hand over one of his twisted black horns. This would waste more precious time. Yes, let's just make this quick. Oi, you lot heard the tender lad. His precious bleeding pups need a rest. Britomar, a hulking mountain of a woman, turned to what was left of a long dead tree on the side of the path, toppling it with a swift kick. There you go, a proper throne for his lordship, she said, bending into a mocking half-curtsy. Here, child, wrap the soles of your feet in these, Ukushaza said, as he handed the young lord a roll of bandages made from woven plant fiber. The natural oils will soothe any blistering and cushion your steps. Ukushaza, as a large bipedal turtle, was an imposing figure in his own right, with his battle-scarred shell and sharp claws that could just as easily tear someone's face off as they could hand them a roll of bandages. Yet the young Lord Siegfried could not help but be put at ease by his gentle nature. Lord Siegfried wrinkled his nose, gingerly took the roll, then began wrapping a bootless foot. When he was finished, he breathed a sigh of relief. Ah, that already feels better. Thank you, Mr. Ukushaza. And it is my pleasure to share the medicinal bounties of nature with a person in need of them. Sprezio massaged his temples. Yes, very good. Let's get moving as quickly as possible. We really shouldn't be out here after dark, especially when only one of us here can see in it. Sprezio's eyes darted back and forth. Even though they had made great pains to ensure that their escort mission through the swamplands would run smoothly, paying a hefty bribe to the local lizardmen tribes to leave them alone, Sprezio couldn't help but feel that they were being watched. Everyone began checking their gear and making ready to move. Suddenly, Trina, a young halfling, let out a squeal. Oh, look at that wee little hopper! She pointed to a frog in the path that was facing the group and croaking loudly. As she moved closer toward it, the frog began croaking more loudly than before, planting itself firmly in front of the group. Oi, listen to him, peep. You'd think he was calling out to his friends at... Wait a tick. Britomar quieted her compatriots, scanning their swampy surroundings. The sound of croaking around them started to get louder and closer. Form up, lads. I think we've got company. She unsheathed her huge claymore. Just keep yourself behind me and the Empress, and you should be fine, Lord Fancy Boots. The Empress? Aye, that sword of hers is practically royalty. The amount of poor souls it's sentenced to death, Trina said, a sly grin spreading across her small face as she drew a short blade and a shorter dagger. Sprezio quickly rummaged through his satchel, producing a rolled piece of parchment with a lightly shimmering seal. You know, I have been meaning to find a reason to give this one a try. All at once, there was a series of loud splashes as humanoid frogs seemingly materialized from the bark of the swamp's abundant mangrove trees. The battalion of bipedal Batrachians pointed their primitive spears at the party members' faces, their throats bulging up and down as they croaked loudly to each other. Sprezio recognized immediately that they were surrounded by bullywugs. All this time he was so worried about the lizard folk that he never considered bullywugs as a possible threat. Perhaps they could negotiate. But before either party could attempt a parley, Sprezio saw the weighty heft of the Empress come down on the biggest bullywug's head. "Gods damn it, not again!" Sprezio said as he broke the seal on the scroll he held and recited the incantation. Rays of multicolored light sprang from his palm, dazzling and blinding the bullywugs in front of them. Now, Britomar, what did we say about waiting before swinging?" Ukushaza said, in a scolding yet amused tone, as he slammed the bottom of his staff to the ground. A cascade of vines sprouted and grabbed at the nearest bullywugs. One of the frogmen leapt high into the air, sending itself over the melee and crashing down on top of Trina, knocking her backwards to the ground as she blocked its spear from striking her skull. "Yappy," Trina said in a strained voice as she pushed the assailant off with her feet. "You gotta start listening more." Britomar simply laughed as she continued to swing her hulking weapon, cutting down the blinded bullywugs as the others scattered and leapt out of the way of her surprisingly swift slashes. Gods! A little help! Please! Sprezio turned to see what would have been a rather hilarious sight, if they were not in danger of losing their charge. Siegfried was halfway inside the mouth of a giant toad, the size of a small horse. A bulbous bullywug rider, clad in rusted mail, was perched on its back. Behind came more riders, hopping towards the group while waving bolos and nets above their heads as they hooted and hollered in their throaty dialect. Before Sprezio could react, the young lord was swallowed whole. "Bleeding hells!" Sprezio thought, running towards the spot the young lord used to be. He didn't have time to grab a scroll. He'd have to chance it. "Stay strong, young lord. I'm coming to save you." Sprezio's eyes glowed white as he manipulated the weave, pointing a finger towards the riders and their mounts. Suddenly, just as he was about to complete the spell, his body was filled with a tingling, prickly sensation. The light in his eyes began flickering different colors. "Damn it, not a surge, not now!" Sprezio attempted to concentrate, but was suddenly overcome with the overwhelming need to sneeze. "Achoo!" A bolt of lightning surged straight through one of the bullywug cavalry and its steed, reducing them both to mounds of smoldering, crackling flesh. "Well, that certainly could have been—" The last word came out as a wheeze, as the closest giant toad slammed its head into his chest, sending him sailing into the muck. He rolled to his hands and knees as he tried to catch his breath, but could only get in short, sharp gasps. Looking towards his friends, he attempted a warning, but the only sound that left his lips were labored, truncated groans. Sprezio could only watch as one by one the other members of his party were captured. Trina was first, as a smaller toad's tongue shot across the battlefield, grabbed her leg, and pulled her into its maw. Ukushaza pointed an open hand at the ground under two of the bullywug cavalry. The earth trembled and fissured, echoing with the sound of the guttural syllables he'd chanted. One toad and its rider were drawn into the collapsing soil. The other leaped over the druid's head, dropping a weighted net that pinned him to the ground. Another giant toad barreled past Ukushaza's magical trap and launched into Britomar's back, slamming into her with a loud thud. The mountain of a woman staggered, dropping to a knee. The horde of bullywugs she had been keeping at bay seized the opening, webbed hands grabbing and slimy bodies piling onto her until she collapsed under their weight. Sprezio heard a splash behind him and turned around just in time to see the darkness of a large, open mouth. "Gods damn it!" After what felt like an eternity of semi-consciousness in the darkness, Sprezio's eyes were hit with a dull, reddish light, and he felt the sensation of sliding forward. He landed with a plop on a muddy floor. Sprezio wiped his eyes and quickly tried to take in his surroundings. He was in a damp, earthen chamber of some sort, with flickering torches clumsily set into the walls. In front of him was a wide woolen platform that raised slightly above the mucky floor. Both sides of the platform were piled with small, muddy mountains of smudged coins and tarnished trinkets. In the center stood a high-backed chair, its paint chipped and faded, and its cushion ripped and almost completely drained of feathers. Sprezio wiped more filth from his forehead and turned to his left, seeing one of the giant toads from before. It coughed up a large blob of mucus and bile. The blob raised two short arms and let out a scream. "I'll kill ya! I'll kill every last one of you slippery bastards!" The blob took two shaky steps forward, then collapsed to the muddy floor. "Well then, glad to know you're alive, Trina. As usual, it seems Timora is smiling her luck down upon you." Two more bullywugs dragged in a battered Ukushaza, free of the net but now with his hands shackled. He waved a claw. "Ah, hello, my dear friends," he said weakly. "I feared that you had been digested." "You and me both," replied Sprezio. "Any word on what happened to Lord Siegfried?" He heard another retching sound to his right. Another giant toad regurgitated a larger, slimier blob, which began whimpering as soon as it hit the floor. "Right, still accounted for. Now what in the God's name do they do with fair Britomar?" The group turned to look behind them as the room began to fill with the sound of pattering footsteps and clanking chains. 8 bullywugs, all dressed similarly to the 2 that walked in before, dragged a hulking figure across the floor. It was covered in rusty chains from shoulder to foot and had a filthy black sack placed over its head. Low, angry growls emanated from beneath the stained black cloth. The bullywug guards dragged Britomar next to Sprezio and lowered her to the ground, heaving her body onto her side. One of the guards grabbed the back of the sack and yanked it off her head, letting out a small peep as it hopped backwards. Britomar blinked as her eyes adjusted to the light, meeting Sprezio's gaze. "Well, hello there. Aren't you a prettier sight than the inside of that filthy thing? I could almost give you a kiss," she said, flashing him a wide grin, bullywug blood staining her front teeth. "Tempting as that might be," Sprezio said, warily eyeing her glistening teeth, "I'm just happy you're still in one piece." The guards formed 2 lines on either side of the archway in the back of the room as one blew into a conch shell. In unison, they puffed out their chests and tapped the bottom of their spears twice on the muddy ground. Down the aisle hopped a large, bloated bullywug wearing a sagging purple vest over its mud-stained shirt. Its shoulders were draped in moldering furs, while its feet were shod in a pair of once regal slippers that were clearly too small. Its head was adorned with a small tiara, the shaped glass stones set into it covered with various cracks and blemishes. The bullywug hopped in front of each of Sprezio's companions, smirking as it inspected them. It let out a chirruping laugh as it turned and hopped up on the wooden platform, slumping into its makeshift throne. It pointed at the group and began croaking loudly, gesturing wildly above its head with its cane. As his companions looked around in confusion, Sprezio, suddenly struck with inspiration, began rummaging through his satchel. "Aha! I knew picking up one of these would pay off eventually." He held up a scroll sealed with the symbol of 2 ears and a mouth. He unfurled it and began reciting the spell it contained, purple arcane sigils forming and hanging in the air as he spoke. All at once, they vanished. Sprezio inhaled deeply, the croaks of the bloated bullywug rapidly transforming to words in his ears. "And that is why, wretched and weak trespassers, that you are here. Now cower before the glory of the dreadlord Maleficent Gluck, first of his clutch, bringer of moist bounties, chosen of Romanos, he who hops to touch the heavens." Sprezio's companions looked at him expectantly, their confused expressions making it obvious that they had not understood a word of what was just said. "Just bow your heads," Sprezio whispered. This frog thinks he's the king, or something. Bow our heads, cried the young lord. I think not. I was dragged here against my will, in a toad's mouth, no less. Shh, Trina hissed, as she shoved Siegfried's head down. Stow it, thickhead. They may not understand what we're saying, but they'll understand your tone. Let Sprezio do the talking. It's what he's good for. She looked at Sprezio and gave him a look that said, Get to it. Poor, weak, tiny invaders. I see that my presence has left you speechless, condescended the Bullywug King. But fear not, for I am a merciful mucklord, and I will allow you to plead your case. The Bullywug King peered at the group with one eye open, as if he was peeking to make sure they were still listening. With a short sigh, Sprezio prepared to give his finest performance. O great and mighty Muck Lord, dread Lord Maleficent Gur-Uk, Sprezio recited. We humble travelers were merely endeavoring to lead this young man home, when we stupidly got lost and stumbled into your magnificent swamplands. We did not mean to cause offense, your moistiness. Yes, your kind are very stupid, aren't they? They cannot hunt or track as well as our kind can. That I can forgive. But what I cannot forgive is the murder of several of our best warriors. Restitution must be made. Despite the Bullywug King's attempt to frame this loss as trivial, Sprezio could tell that he was scared of losing more members of his tribe. He wanted them out of there as much as they did, but it was obvious his position prevented from simply asking nicely. Well, your hoppiness, what will you have of us? Tribute! Thundered King Guruk. The Bullywug guards began to croak and hoot with glee. Their king basked in the cacophony for a few moments, then held up a webbed hand to silence them. Tribute or service? Your groveling has brought a merciful tear to my eye, so I will let you choose. Sprezio looked to his companions for input. The young lord crossed his arms. I'm not giving a single copper to that thing, he said, pointing his nose up in the air. But I suppose we can run an errand for this brute. It probably wants us to fetch it a snack or something. The adventurers mumbled and shrugged their approval. O great and inexplicably moist king, we modestly request to perform an act of service to pay our debt, Sprezio said, with a low bow. We are hard of good or coins, you see, and wouldn't want to insult your lordship with too paltry a tithe. Yes, I knew you would make good vassals for my glorious domain. You shall cleanse the realm of the long-hated, rusted scourge. And should you succeed, you shall receive rewards of the highest order. The group had been walking through the cave for what felt like an hour, finding their way by torchlight and the rays cast from a magical orb Sprezio had conjured on the tip of Britamar's sword. They stopped as they heard the cave start to echo with the horrible sound of grinding steel and wrenching hinges. Look alive, Britamar said, pointing the Empress towards the sound. Out of the shadows creaked a large, bull-looking creature made entirely of metal. Patches of rust covered its body and joints, which squealed as it advanced towards them. It exhaled a small burst of green steam, then bellowed at the adventurers. Right, let's take this hell's damn thing apart and bring its head back to the frog, Sprezio shouted. His companions nodded, then charged forward, battle cries leaping from their lips. Sprezio pulled a scroll from his satchel, this one sporting a seal that shimmered in the light. You know, I have been meaning to find a reason to give this one a try. Sprezio grinned, then broke the seal.
Thanks for joining us on Browsing the Bestiary. Be sure to subscribe for more episodes and check out our Patreon at Browsing the Bestiary, all one word.
There you can keep up to date on any new pod-related announcements, access reference pages for each episode, and download character sheets for characters featured in our story times. You can also comment on what you think the next monster will be, and if you get it right, you'll get inspiration.
And if you're something of a lore master yourself, you can offer us corrections for any facts we got wrong. If you catch something we missed, you may get a shout out in a future episode.
Remember to cite your sources.
I'm Dungeon Mistress Jayde.
And I'm Lore Master Andy.
Until next time, may your dice rolls be high
and your adventurers ever prepared.